বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর দয়ার সাগর এ দাসে করুণা করে ওহে বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর দয়ার সাগর আর দিয়া পদ চায়া সুদয় আবার তোমার চরণ ধরে দিয়া পদ চায়া শুধু আবার তোমার চরণ ওহে বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর দয়ার সাগর এ দাসে করুণা করে ওহে বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর এ দাসে করুণা দিয়া পদ চায়া সুদয় আমায় দিয়া পদ চায়া তোমার চরণ ধরে তোমার চরণ জয় বেগদমে জয় দোষ সুদে জয় গুণ দেহ দাসে জয় বেগদমে জয় গুণ দেহ আর জয় বেগদমে জয় দোষ সুদে জয় গুণ দেহ দাসে জয় বেগদমে জয় দোষ জয় সত সঙ্গ দেহ আমায় জয় সত ওহে বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর ওহে বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর জয় সত সঙ্গ দেহ আমায় জয় সত আর জয় সত সঙ্গ দেহ আমায় জয় সত বসেছি সঙ্গের আসে আমি বসেছি সঙ্গের আসে একাকে আমার নাহি পায় বল হরির নাম সংকীর্তনে নাহি পায় বল আরে কাকে আমার নাহি পায় বল হরির নাম সংকীর্তনে। তুমি কৃপা করি শ্রদ্ধা বিন্দু দিয়া, তুমি কৃপা দেহ কৃষ্ণ নামদনে, দেহ কৃষ্ণ আমায় দেহ কৃষ্ণ নামদনে। কৃষ্ণ সে তোমার কৃষ্ণ দিতে পারো, তোমার শক্তি আছে। আর কৃষ্ণ সে তোমার কৃষ্ণ দিতে পারো, তোমার শক্তি আছে। আমি তো কাঙ্গাল কৃষ্ণ কৃষ্ণ বলে, আমি তো প্রভুপাদ আমি তো কাঙ্গাল কৃষ্ণ কৃষ্ণ বলে, আমি তো কাঙ্গাল কৃষ্ণ কৃষ্ণ বলে, আমি তো দায় তব পাচে পাচে, দায় তব আমি দায় তব পাচে পাচে। বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর দয়ার সাগর, এ দাসে করুণা করে। ও বৈষ্ণব দিয়া পদ জয়া সুদয় আমারে, দিয়া পদ জয়া তোমার চরণ ধরে, তোমার চরণ। জয় বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর, বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর, বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর, জয় বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর। जय भक्ति स्वरूप दामोदर गोस्वामी वैष्णव ठाकुर, भक्ति स्वरूप दामोदर गोस्वामी वैष्णव ठाकुर। जय भक्ति स्वरूप दामोदर। जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 प्रभुपाद, जय प्रभुपाद प्रभु। नेताई गौर हरि बोल, हरि बोल, हरि बोल, हरि बोल, गौर हरि बोल।
In our Krishna Balaram temple, and so on the occasion of Vijay Dashami, Ramachandra Bhagavan, he killed the wicked demon Ravana. Also it is the appearance day of Madhvacharya, and also Indra Prabhu started the 24-hour Kirtan was started by Srila Prabhupada, but then for some time it was stopped, and then His Grace Indra Prabhu in 1996 again started the 24-hour Kirtan. And so we are here also specifically to celebrate the disappearance of His Holiness Bhaktisvarupa Damodara Maharaj. And it is mentioned by the Acharyas in the scriptures that the appearance day of course, the Supreme Lord, that is celebrated in a very grand way, like Janmashtami, Radhashtami, Gopurnima. And similarly, the appearance day of the Acharyas, the spiritual master, known as Vyasa Puja, is celebrated also in a grand way. Of course, not as grand as the appearance of the Lord, but then also the disappearance of the spiritual master when he leaves this world. There's Mahotsav is celebrated, a festival. Of course, and it is also known as Viraha Mahotsav. And the feelings of separations are there when the spiritual master leaves. Hare Krishna. And but in order to show proper respect to the spiritual master and to give solace to all the devotees, the disciples, so a festival is observed. So we are here on the occasion of the disappearance of His Holiness. So he left 10 years ago, right? 10 years? 14 years ago. 14. Okay, 14 years ago. Okay, 2006. So we'll have a few devotees. So bhajan was there and some video was shown. So we'll have a few senior devotees who will say a few words. His God brothers and God sisters, and then some senior devotees, some disciples will say a few words in glorification, in remembrance of His Holiness. And then we will have Bhog offering also, and Puspanjali, and then Artik, and then Mahaprasadam feast for all the devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
First of all, we would like to ask Her Grace Devi Shakti Mataji to speak a few words in glorification of His Holiness.
Srila Bhaktisvarupa Damodara Swami was so dear to Srila Prabhupada that Prabhupada was actually proud of him. He would speak about him often. And we had the great fortune of watching their interactions here in Vrindavan. In 1974, Maharaj was still a brahmachari at that time, and he came here to Vrindavan around Janmashtami time to present to Srila Prabhupada his doctorate thesis. He had just received, or was in the process of receiving, his doctorate from the USC, I believe, in California. And Prabhupada was so proud of him. So he gave Prabhupada that doctorate thesis, and Prabhupada was so pleased to hear that he was going to get his doctorate degree, and then he could preach more vigorously to the scientists all over the world, establishing the Bhaktivedanta Institute. And this Bhaktivedanta Institute was so important to Srila Prabhupada that he funded everything, whatever the expenses were. And the office was set up in 2 places at that time, in Berkeley and in Bombay. So that thesis, after Prabhupada looked at it, it was given to the servant, and the servant gave it to me to keep carefully in Prabhupada's house. Things were very different in Prabhupada's house then because Prabhupada lived there. It wasn't a museum. So Prabhupada had a cabinet. I put it in there, and I thought, well, as soon as I get a chance, I'm going to read this thesis. And finally, after Prabhupada left, he went on for preaching. I took that thesis, and I couldn't even understand the title of it. And then I tried to read it, and it was like a whole different language. When you try to read these scientific explanations of the soul, mechanistic physics, quantum, from top to bottom, I couldn't understand any of it. So I kept it there very carefully for years. And then finally, after Srila Prabhupada entered Samadhi, and then Bhaktisvarupa Damodara, he would come occasionally here to Vrindavan. So then I finally gave it back to Maharaj. I said, we're just keeping it here, better that you keep it safely and you can use it for your purposes, for your preaching. So I returned it to him. The Maharaj, the last thing that Srila Prabhupada in his manifest Leela was when Bhaktisvarupa Damodara arranged a science conference here in Vrindavan. It was in October, just weeks before Prabhupada was going to leave us. And though Prabhupada couldn't move, he couldn't eat, he was bedridden for months, every day he had Bhaktisvarupa Damodara report to him who spoke, what did they say, which devotees gave their dissertations at that time. And Prabhupada wasn't able to attend. So if you go into Prabhupada's house, you'll see in Prabhupada's bedroom, it's called a bust. It's Prabhupada's head as a statue. So Prabhupada explained to Bhaktisvarupa Damodara at that time that I want to come to your conference and take part, but in this condition I can't come. So you take this bust and you put it there where the conference is going on, and that will be my presence. So every day they would garland that bust and they would speak, and that would be Prabhupada's presence there in the conference. And in the evening, Prabhupada would look forward to the scientists, because the scientists, devotees, there was Gyanadas, there was Sadaput, there was Madhavadas, there was Bhaktisvarupa Damodara. They would come in their suits and their ties to see Prabhupada. And Prabhupada wouldn't let them sit on the floor. He would insist that the devotees got chairs for them, and they would sit by Prabhupada's bedside and speak to Prabhupada from the chairs and explain to Prabhupada everything that happened during that conference. So as they were speaking one evening, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he thought, because normally Prabhupada would just hear kirtan, very mild kirtan with the small kartals throughout the day and night. So Tamal Krishna Maharaj, as the scientists were speaking and explaining what was going on, he said to Prabhupada, Prabhupada, would you like to have kirtan now? And Prabhupada said to him, he said, this is kirtan. When we're talking about preaching, this is also kirtan. So though Prabhupada was hearing about the scientific conference and all the things the scientists were saying, for Prabhupada that was the same as kirtan to him. So we know that Bhaktisvarupa Damodara did so much to develop the science aspect of Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada, he even assigned, I think it was 3 rooms in our Gurukula specifically for Bhaktivedanta Institute, he wanted the students to learn science according to the Vedas. And we had big charts there that Prabhupada had the devotees make of the cosmology of the universe. So this was a very important aspect of the Krishna Consciousness Society to Srila Prabhupada, developing this scientific preaching. And he put this entirely in the hands of Bhaktisvarupa Damodara. So we're very grateful to him for the advances that he made in helping the scientists understand the synergy between science and religion. And I'm sure all of his disciples are carrying on his preaching in this way. And we offer our most humble respects and obeisances to Maharaj for carrying out Srila Prabhupada's dearmost instructions of preaching to the scientists. Hare Krishna.
Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaye Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupādaya Krishna Pishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pasyasta Desatarine Kripa kari sabai mile kar hai karuna adham patita jane na rakhivo ghena Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare थैंक यू इंद्र नीलामणि प्रभु जी को बहुत धन्यवाद देता हूँ। वो मेरे घर में आके मेरे को कहा परसों 2 दिन पहले कि प्रभु जी 26 तारीख को आपको कहीं प्रोग्राम नहीं करना है, आप आना है, हमारे गुरु जी का तिरुभाव तिथि है, बलराम हॉल में सेलिब्रेशन होगा, आपका स्वागत है, प्लीज़ आप दूसरा जगह नहीं जाइएगा। तो मैं उनका बड़ा आभार मानता हूँ। मैं बोला ज़रूर आऊँगा क्योंकि महाराज का मेरे सर्वश्रेष्ठ प्रेमी आदरणीय मेरे गुरु भाई है, तो मैं ज़रूर अवश्य आऊँगा। तो मैं आया हूँ। अभी मैं आया तो फिर और इंद्रनारायण प्रभु ने बताया कि आप हिंदी में बताइएगा, हिंदी में बोल दीजिए ताकि तो ठीक है, मैं हिंदी में बोल रहा हूँ, अच्छी बात है। मैं चाहता था कि हिंदी में बोलूँ। तो आज सबसे श्रेष्ठ उत्तम दिन है क्योंकि विजयादशमी, विजय मतलब जय, भगवान रामचंद्र जी ने जो है आज रावण को, लंका में रावण का वध कर विजय करके और अयोध्या लौटने के लिए तैयारी की है। तो आज का विशेष दिन है विजयादशमी। पूरा भारतवर्ष में, हमारे भारतवर्ष में पूरा सेलिब्रेशन हो रहा है, महाउत्सव विजयादशमी। तो इस दिन में जो है, इस शुभ मुहूर्त, शुभ तिथि के दिन और भक्ति स्वरूप दामोदर महाराज और गोलोक धाम गए हैं। तो शुभ मुहूर्त में, शुभ तिथि में, तो महाराज जी जो है प्रभुपाद जी के अधिक प्रिय शिष्यों में से, वरिष्ठ शिष्यों में से एक है, क्योंकि वही केवल ISKCON में प्रभुपाद जी के बहुत प्रिय वैज्ञानिक शिष्य थे भक्ति स्वरूप दामोदर महाराज जी। कि तो प्रभुपाद जी कभी भी जहाँ भी क्लास होता है तो बोलते थे कि कहाँ है स्वरूप दामोदर और साइंटिस्ट। तो प्रभुपाद जी उनके पहले खोज करते थे, सामने आया तो बोला हाँ, प्रभुपाद जी का दिल एकदम गदगदित हो जाता था महाराज को देखकर। तो इस तरह से तो प्रभुपाद जी का प्रेम और बहुत प्रेम था भक्ति स्वरूप दामोदर महाराज के प्रति। तो भक्ति स्वरूप दामोदर महाराज ने बहुत बड़ा ISKCON में साइंटिस्ट, वैज्ञानिक पूरा विश्व भर में फैलाया है। वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस इस तरह से अलग अलग जगह में अलग अलग प्रोग्राम करके, जैसे बम्बई में प्रभुपाद जी ने स्पेशली भक्ति स्वरूप दामोदर महाराज के लिए सेकेंड फ्लोर जो है सेकेंड फ्लोर गेस्ट हाउस में, तो उन्होंने कहा, प्रभुपाद ने कहा केवल ये भक्ति वेदांत इंस्टीट्यूट एक पूरा फ्लोर उनको देना चाहिए ताकि वो प्रचार साइंटिफिक प्रचार करने के लिए। तो प्रभुपाद ने बम्बई में जो है पूरा एक फ्लोर जो है गेस्ट हाउस का महत्वपूर्ण फ्लोर पहला माला, तो वो जो है भक्ति स्वरूप दामोदर महाराज के अर्पित किया था और अभी भी है। और जब महाराज थे तो बम्बई में बहुत सारे वैज्ञानिक प्रचार बहुत खूब अच्छी तरह से हो रहा था, क्योंकि मैं बम्बई में था उस समय, इसलिए मैं वहाँ की कथा बता रहा हूँ। और तो प्रभुपाद तो जगह जगह में जो है महाराज प्रोग्राम करते थे, आईआईटी ये सब अलग अलग एरिया में आते थे बम्बई में। तो महाराज का बहुत साइंटिफिक प्रोग्राम होता था, लोगों को बहुत प्रभावित करते थे, बहुत दयालु थे महाराज जी। और भक्ति स्वरूप दामोदर महाराज किसी को भी जो है हरे कृष्ण बोलते थे, बच्चे भी आ जाए तो सामने उनको भी वो प्रेम से जो है भाव से अपनाते थे। सभी को जो है किसी के पर उनका जो है द्वेष नहीं होता था, वो बहुत प्रेम भाव से भक्तों को आकर्षित करते थे और बहुत सुंदर और कीर्तन करते थे। जब उनका कीर्तन अब सुनते हैं, परम करुणा बहु द्विजना गुरुदेव कृपा बिंदु जी ओहो वैष्णव ठाकुर, तो आँख से असुरपात हो जाता है। इतना भाव से जो है भक्ति स्वरूप दामोदर महाराज कीर्तन करते थे और भगवान साक्षात उनके सामने प्रकट हो जाते थे, ऐसे लगता था। तो इतना कीर्तन उनका भाव था भक्ति में। तो महाराज ने कई बार मेरे को भी बम्बई में बोला था कि आप ज़रूर मणिपुर आइए, मणिपुर जो है पहाड़ी इलाका है, आप नेपाल के हैं तो नेपाल भी पहाड़ी इलाका है, तो आप मणिपुर ज़रूर आइए। लेकिन मैं उस समय प्रचार में उधर बिजी था और पुजारी में बिजी था, इसलिए मैं नहीं जा पाया। लेकिन महाराज मेरे को भी बहुत बोलते थे। उन मणिपुर से उन्होंने जो है एक बार बहुत बड़ा जो है वहाँ का मणिपुरी डांस ग्रुप बम्बई में लाया, वहाँ उन्होंने बहुत बड़ा प्रोग्राम कराया और मणिपुरी पगड़ी जितने भी हमारे गुरु भाई लोग थे बम्बई में सीनियर डिवोटी, तो महाराज ने एक एक करके सबको अपना हाथ से मणिपुरी पगड़ी सबको पहनाया हम लोगों को। तो हमको बहुत आनंदित हुए हम लोग, उनका प्रोग्राम मार्शल डांस सब नचाया कोटियाड के अंदर राधा रास बिहारी प्रांगण में। तो इस तरह से महाराज ने जो है अच्छी तरह से सबको जो है भक्ति में ये न कहना प्रकार है ना भक्ति में जो है प्रभावित कराने के लिए मणिपुरी कल्चर, मणिपुरी जो है डांस पूरा विश्व भर में उन्होंने फैलाया है। विश्व भर में उन्होंने ग्रुप बना के लेके जा रहे थे और मणिपुरी कल्चर को फैला रहे थे भक्ति स्वरूप दामोदर महाराज, क्योंकि प्रभुपाद जी की भी इच्छा थी कि मणिपुरी कल्चर जो है पूरा विश्व भर में प्रचार हो। तो प्रभुपाद जी पर्सनली ये भी इंस्ट्रक्शन महाराज को दिए थे, तो महाराज जो है उस हिसाब से वो कार्य भी आगे बढ़ा रहे थे भक्ति स्वरूप दामोदर महाराज। तो ये जो है महाराज जी कोई साधारण प्रभुपाद के शिष्य नहीं थे, प्रभुपाद जी के एक प्रिय शिष्य थे। प्रभुपाद के सीनियर मोस्ट शिष्यों में से एक वो भी सीनियर मोस्ट थे, वो भी बड़े वैज्ञानिक प्रिय शिष्य थे प्रभुपाद जी के। प्रभुपाद जी बहुत उनको लायक करते थे भक्ति स्वरूप दामोदर महाराज को। तो इसीलिए तो प्रभुपाद चाहते थे कि मतलब वैज्ञानिक प्रचार हो आजकल कली युग में सब जगह। तो इसलिए अभी उनके शिष्य भक्ति स्वरूप दामोदर महाराज के शिष्य लोगों को भी उनके अपने गुरु के आदेश अनुसार साइंटिफिक प्रचार करना चाहिए, अपना गुरु का पालन आगे का पालन करना चाहिए। प्रभुपाद जी भी बहुत खुश होंगे उस बात के लिए और भक्ति स्वरूप दामोदर महाराज भी बहुत खुश होंगे, उनको भी आनंद आएगा। और वो भी उनकी भी बड़ी इच्छा थी बहुत। वो लोग महाराज जी ने बहुत कोशिश कर रहे थे सभी को करने के लिए बहुत सारे उन्होंने साइंटिफिक पुस्तक भी लिखी है। बम्बई में उसका स्टॉल लगाते थे, बहुत सारे पुस्तक वितरण होता था, कॉलेज में जाते थे उनके शिष्य लोग। मणिपुरी भक्त बहुत सारे उस समय जुहू में आ चुके थे, वहीं से कलेक्शन कर रहे थे मणिपुर में मंदिर बनाने के लिए। बम्बई का पैसा मेंबरशिप, लाइफ मेंबरशिप कर रहे थे। तो इसी तरह से जो है बम्बई में एक जो है उन्होंने बड़ा हेड ऑफिस होने के नाते तो महाराज ने भी वहाँ से पैसा कलेक्शन करने के लिए अपने शिष्य 4-5 शिष्यों 5-6 शिष्य को मेंबरशिप में से कलेक्शन कर रहे थे मणिपुर के लिए, और बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन कर रहे थे। बहुत अच्छा बुक स्टॉल लगता था, जहाँ जहाँ भी भक्ति वेदांत इंस्टीट्यूट का जो है वो बोर्ड लगा रहता था। प्रचार बहुत अच्छा चल रहा था। महाराज जब आते थे तो प्रवचन करते थे, सबको सुनाते थे और कीर्तन सुनाते थे, सत्संग करते थे, सभी को प्रभावित करते थे। तो इसलिए आज महाराज जी का जो है तिरुभाव तिथि है, तो उनके लिए मैं अपना तरफ से जो है उनके चरण कमलों में दंडवत प्रणाम करता हूँ, ताकि मेरे ऊपर आशीर्वाद उनका बना रहे और मैं भी भक्ति में प्रभुपाद की सेवा में आगे बढ़ता रहूँ। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। भक्ति स्वरूप दामोदर महाराज की बोलो। हरे कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे।
His Holiness Bhaktisvarupa Damodara Maharaj ki jai. So great honor and privilege to sit with the Vaishnavas. Haribo. Hare Krishna. When we have an opportunity to glorify a saintly Vaishnava as purifying for the heart and for the assembly of devotees. Hare Krishna. अच्छा नहीं है ये sound system खराब है. Too much echo. Just like Sanatan and Rupa Goswami were empowered by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So although Bhaktisvarupa Damodara Maharaj, he not awakened, but Prabhupada became very animated and very much enlivened, because people want to hear what the scientists have to say. People think that these are the ultimate authorities, you know, the scientists and big professors. So he was very proud, my disciple, PhD in science, physics, the purpose and goal of life. And so all the morning walks, especially during that time, I believe in 75, 76, there's great interest in promoting this BI, Bhaktivedanta Institute, and still exists many places, also in Gainesville again, Brahma Tirtha, I spoke to him the other day, they have a new BI. The inspiration and enthusiasm to present Krishna consciousness and give pleasure to Srila Prabhupada was inspired in Bhaktisvarupa Damodara Maharaj. He had wonderful material qualifications. To get a PhD, especially in physics, you have to know what you're talking about, and there's a lot of study and a lot of work to achieve that goal. But Prabhupada made that flower open by encouraging and inspiring Bhaktisvarupa Damodar to, elaborate, to bring very prominent people together to discuss science and religion, to discuss the whole Vedic concept and how the origin of life. So these are very intriguing topics, and he had a lot of interest from many all over the world, and did a wonderful job. His kirtan was very ecstatic. His classes were wonderful. His disciples are all simply wonderful. And this is what the Vaishnava culture is. Surrender to Guru, take up the mission of the Guru submissively, and Krishna in the heart and externally as your spiritual master will inspire you to help propagate the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And this was done very expertly, very beautifully by Bhaktisvarupa Damodara Maharaj. And all those who are following in this tradition, we have to have this very high and prestigious presentation of the Vedic culture, of the Guru Parampara, and this is very much appreciated in high learned circles. So today is a very auspicious day. The more we remember the devotees and their service to Guru and Krishna, the more we become inspired to also put our whatever little talent we may have. By Lord Chaitanya's mercy, a lame man can cross mountains, a blind man can see the stars in the sky, and all of us who may be not as competent as we want to be, Krishna and the blessings of the Vaishnavas will give us the strength and the ability to try to do something of value for spreading Krishna consciousness and giving pleasure to Srila Prabhupada. Your sound system is terrible. Bhaktisvarupa Damodara Maharaj ki Hare Krishna.
Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So आज बहुत ही विशेष दिन है, ये राम विजय उत्सव है, जब भगवान श्री रामचंद्र ने वध किया रावण को लंका में, और मध्वाचार्य का आविर्भाव महोत्सव भी है। लेकिन हमारे लिए ये श्रील भक्ति स्वरूप दामोदर महाराज के तिरुभाव महोत्सव। भक्ति स्वरूप दामोदर मणिपुर से थे और प्रभुपाद से मिली लॉस एंजलिस में। ये मणिपुर बहुत विशेष प्रदेश है भारत में। झांसी में हमारे एक लाइफ मेंबर का स्कूल था, और जो लाइफ मेंबर था हमको थोड़ा सा दर्शन कराया इस स्कूल का, और एक स्थान पर था जहाँ ये सब विद्यार्थी लोग सब प्रकार का प्रदर्शनी बनाया, अलग अलग प्रदेश का what do you say, वेश और like that. So South India का ये जो लंगी पैंट है वो था, और पंजाबी सूट था पंजाब में। लेकिन जब मणिपुर में आया सब लोग धोती कुर्ता और गौड़ीय वैष्णव तिलक, ये विद्यार्थीगण, क्योंकि मणिपुर प्रसिद्ध है गौड़ीय वैष्णव के लिए। शायद नारोत्तम दास ठाकुर के एक शिष्य वहाँ बहुत प्रचार किया। दूसरी गौड़ीय वैष्णव मणिपुर में महाराज का जन्म हुआ, और प्रभुपाद से मिले लॉस एंजलिस में, सदर्न कैलिफोर्निया में विश्वविद्यालय में स्टडी कर रहा था और साइंटिस्ट थे, और प्रभुपाद से बहुत प्रभावित हुए। और प्रभुपाद का मेन मिशन था, उनका एक नॉट मेन बट उनका मुख्य उद्देश्य देशों में सब एक बहुत विशेषता ये वैज्ञानिक लोगों को भगवान के बारे में समझाना। हमारे इसका बीज है श्रील भक्तिविनोद ठाकुर। भक्तिविनोद ठाकुर ने अंग्रेजी भाषा में एक कवि बनाया, कविता बनाया। हमारे अपने भाषा में कविता बनाने में बहुत मुश्किल होते हैं और दूसरों को भाषा में कविता बनाना और मुश्किल है, लेकिन बिल्कुल राइम और मीटर बिल्कुल सही है। इसमें एक लाइन है जो प्रभुपाद का वैज्ञानिक लोगों का प्रचार था, but tell me not in reasoning cold that life was made alone by earth's mechanic lifeless rules and to destruction prone. Tell me not in reasoning cold that life was made alone by earth's mechanic lifeless rules and to destruction prone. Perfect rhyme and meter दूसरे भाषा में। और ये प्रभुपाद का वैज्ञानिक लोगों का सार है। सो भक्तिस्वरूप दामोदर महाराज उसका पूरा जीवन बनाया। इसका हर एटम, इसका पूरा बीइंग्स, हर एटम श्रील प्रभुपाद का इसी उद्देश्य में समर्पित किया था। He dedicated every atom of his body to this scientific preaching. क्योंकि ये वैज्ञानिक लोगों को पूरा विश्व को ब्रह्म रूप, ब्रह्म रास्ते से ले जा रहे हैं कि हम केवल tell me not in reasoning cold that life is made alone with earth's mechanic life, हम केवल अचानक what do you say, संयोग से एक बड़ा विस्फोट हुआ और फिर सब कुछ हुआ। कोई भगवान तो है ही नहीं। तो क्योंकि हम केवल केमिकल्स है तो क्यों मैं दूसरे के बारे में चिंता करूं, वो तो केवल एक केमिकल है। तो आज पूरा विश्व में इसी दर्शन में लुप्त है। तो यह था कि हम ऐसा काम कर रहे जिससे हमारा पूरा एग्जिस्टेंस खत्म होने वाला है, क्योंकि हमारे कुछ केयर नहीं है। हम तो केवल केमिकल है, मर जाएंगे तो सब कुछ हो गया। वो भी केमिकल है तो क्या चिंता करो कुछ केमिकल के बारे में। तो पूरा विश्व में ये लोभ के इकोनॉमी से चल रहा है और हमारा पूरा विश्व को, हवा को खत्म कर दिया, पृथ्वी को खत्म कर दिया, नदी को, हमारे जमुना नदी को देखो कितना गंदा हो गया। केवल क्योंकि ये वैष्णव फिलॉसफी सबसे इकोलॉजिकल फिलॉसफी है। सरल जीवन और ऊंचे विचार, ये सबसे इकोलॉजिकल प्रीचिंग है। सो प्रभु चाहते थे कि ये लोग तो जैसे पंचगौर प्रभु ने कहा कि सब लोग ये साइंटिस्ट के पीछे जा रहे हैं। आज थोड़ा संदेह महाराज के प्रचार से आज थोड़ा संदेह हो गया। ये जांच किया कि 30% लोग अमेरिका में सोचे कि कभी चंद्रमा के पास गए नहीं। 30% अमेरिका के लोग जो सबसे साइंटिफिक वाले हैं। सो पूरा जीवन श्रील प्रभुपाद के चरणों में समर्पित कर दिया इसी उद्देश्य में। जैसा प्रभु जी ने दादी बख्शा में बताया, प्रभुपाद यह वृंदावन में एक साइंटिफिक उद्देश्य what do you call कार्यक्रम बनाया वृंदावन में ही। सो महाराज बहुत इनसे हम बहुत प्रेरणा मिलते हैं, क्योंकि आध्यात्मिक जीवन में हमारा सफलता नहीं मिलती कि हम कितने श्लोक याद कर सकते हैं, हम कितने बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन कर सकते हैं, कितने पैसे कमा सकते हैं। हमारा आध्यात्मिक जीवन का सफलता होते गुरु का प्रसन्नता कितना हुआ। और महाराज बहुत प्रेरणा देते, आप लोग तो इनके शिष्य हैं, आप बहुत भाग्यशाली, इतना सुंदर गुरु महाराज आपके हैं जो हमको दिखाया गुरु का समर्पण कैसा होना चाहिए, कैसा होना चाहिए। ये भक्ति स्वरूप दामोदर, इस भक्ति स्वरूप दामोदर महाराज का तिरुवा महोत्सव हम मना रहे हैं आज। श्रील भक्ति स्वरूप दामोदर महाराज की। हरे कृष्ण।
Vanchakalpadurubhyascha kripasindubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So in 2014, I think it was, we did the 40th anniversary of the Krishna Balaram Mandir, Srila Prabhupada's Krishna Balaram Mandir. And I had the great fortune of providing cultural activities every night. We had this festival, if some of you were here, 5 days and 5 nights. And we invited Prabhupada's disciples from all over the world, and it was a glorious week of glorifying Prabhupada. So we were also able to engage in the Manipuri dancers. And so I got to understand Swarup Damodar Maharaj's humility and his full dedication to Srila Prabhupada through his disciples. I didn't have much one-on-one or even got to hear from him in the time he was on the planet. We always heard about him, just seeing him walking on the Los Angeles ocean, talking to Srila Prabhupada about the scientists. And we had so much awe and reverence, even just for his name. We would hear the name, His Holiness Swarup Damodar Maharaj, and we would feel so blessed and grateful that he was one of our godbrothers. So during that time in 2014, we were very honored that we could arrange for the Manipur dancers to come from Manipur. And through getting to know them, those 5 days and 5 nights, I was so impressed, as our dear Panchagoda Prabhu was saying, Swarup Damodar Maharaj's disciples, they're just simply wonderful. There's so much humility and so much dedication and loyalty and focus. To do this, I don't know if you've ever seen the Manipur dancing with swords, and it takes a lot of focus, a lot of determination to learn that art. And Maharaj, Swarup Damodar Maharaj, he used to take them traveling all over Manipur, and then he brought them to America and all over the world, and people were introduced to the cultural side of Manipur through Swarup Damodar Maharaj. He very much wanted to promote the cultural, dramatic dances and dramas. They used to do, actually, the Radha Krishna deities that are in Swarup Damodar Maharaj's Samadhi at Radhakund. If you'll notice, they have the Manipur dress on. Radharani has a beautiful Manipur style dress on. So they all came here. The program was in the Krishna Hall for 5 days and nights. And they completely just overwhelmed us with not only the dance itself, the Manipur dance and the martial arts dancing, but their demeanor, their character, very humble, very loyal, always talking about Swarup Damodar Maharaj and how they wanted to push on his mission, just like we're pushing on Srila Prabhupada's mission. Swarup Damodar felt that Prabhupada also, as well as the science part of Krishna consciousness, that Prabhupada wanted the cultural arts to be distributed all over the world and to be promoted. So he was very much known for this in Manipur. In fact, one of his disciples said that the officials in Manipur, they created a big statue of him in Manipur, so everyone knows his glories in this way. So I feel very blessed and grateful We have our dear Kamala and our dear Radhika. So many of his disciples are here, and they're pushing on ISKCON Vrindavan in the spirit of Srila Swarup Damodara Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
So we will have to go way back for me remembering Maharaj, Bhaktisvarupa Damodara Maharaj, to 1973. Pretty much that's when I had my fortunate enough to have some association with him. Early 1973. When you see these slides go on, you'll see so many morning walks in Los Angeles, in the park, Cheviot's Hills Park. Almost every day, Maharaj was there at that time. Of course, he was brahmachari. He was very young. I was asking Prabhu what his age might be now. But as everyone has mentioned that word humility, I saw that same humility, unpretentious ways of Maharaj when Prabhupada would interact with him on so many morning walks, training him as a scientist. Always had such a smile on his face talking with Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada was the same. He enjoyed having those conversations with him. He knew the potential that was there, what he would be able to do in the future. So this was the person that I knew and remember. And he was always very nice to me. I was just a young boy, Prabhupada's servant. But we had a very nice relationship, very friendly. And we can see from what he has done since that time, as he said, his disciples carry that mood that Maharaj had. I know that Prabhupada gave him so much facility within the society to perform his service. He was very unique in that in those days, 75, all the way to 1977, BBT was there. BBT, of course, was, we say, the juggernaut within our society. So many books being sold, so much Lakshmi coming in. And that Lakshmi only had two purposes. 50% would go for printing of books. Other 50% was coming here to India to build these temples that we're also fortunate to be in to this day. But besides those two principles, Prabhupada made an arrangement that monthly, a certain amount, thousands of dollars every month, should be given to the project of Bhaktisvarupa Damodara Maharaj. It was unheard of at the time. And even amongst his godbrothers, it was a very difficult thing to accept that Prabhupada was prepared to do that. But this is how important Prabhupada considered what his service was and what he could do for the society. Prabhupada knew this was a very important branch of Krishna consciousness, to bring Krishna consciousness to the scientific community. And he was the person that was to do it. And I saw that every day on these walks, how Prabhupada was training him. You can listen, all the audios are there, you can hear the question and answers. And always in Maharaj's voice, he was just so wonderful. Whatever Prabhupada said, of course, he would agree with, because Prabhupada's business was to defeat all those arguments, those scientific arguments. What would the scientists say? And then Maharaj would say something, and of course Prabhupada was always defeating. But he was being very happily defeated by Srila Prabhupada. Anyway, I don't have a lot to say, but these are my remembrances with him. We're all very sweet, and so much care. He manifested the qualities that I saw in Srila Prabhupada himself. So much compassion, so much caring, so much humility, and at the same time just engaged 24 hours a day in carrying out Prabhupada's orders. And in this way, of course, he's glorious and he's glorified. He's very much missed by all of us to this day. He made friendships with all of Prabhupada's disciples, all his god brothers, god sisters. He was very caring, and we can see in those qualities, we develop these qualities. These are devotees, and this is a stellar devotee, Maharaj. So I can only say I very much cherish those times I had with him in those early days. And afterwards, through the 80s and 90s, I didn't get to see him very often. I remember seeing him in Washington, D.C., seeing him here and there. And as soon as he would see you, he always made you feel very comfortable, very welcomed. And so I appreciate very much the time I was able to have with him by Srila Prabhupada's mercy and by his own ability to be there for all of us. He was a devotee in every sense. This is a quality. I was reading this about Shyama Sundar speaking about Srila Prabhupada, saying he could make the most insignificant thing you did seem like it was very wonderful, very amazing thing, even tiniest little service. I remember that with Prabhupada. One day, I say Prabhupada, every day, of course, Prabhupada would wear his gamcha for a massage. He had 2 of them that we traveled with, and they would become so oil-filled. And cleaning them was a project. You couldn't just throw them in the washing machine, but this was the way in the West. I would give it to one Mataji, I remember, in Los Angeles, for over a month, and this red and white gamcha would come back. It was gray and brown. And finally one day Prabhupada looked at me. He said, "Who is washing this?" I said, "Oh, what Mataji is doing." He says, "It's so dirty." He said, "It's filled with oil." So that afternoon after massage, I went in and just got some soap powder and what I had learned in India, saw them washing, at the Ganga, the Jamuna, beating the cloth on the rocks. So I just started doing that. And after a few minutes, it was sparkling clean. The white was white, the red was red. And the next day, Prabhupada came in for massage. I gave him the gamcha to put on. Such a simple thing, little 5 rupee gamcha. And he put it on and he looked at me. He said, "Oh, it looks so nice." He said, "It's like new." He said, "Who has done it?" I said, I washed it, Prabhupada. "Just see," he said. "Very nice, very good." He said, "Just see." Just wash the gamcha. But he made you feel so appreciated, like you had done something wonderful. So that same mentality I saw there in all the great devotees, they have that same ability. You do a little bit of service and they make you feel so happy that you've done something. So this also Bhaktisvarupa Damodara, that smile he had as a young man, I saw every day, such a beautiful smile, always happy, always positive. Whatever he did it in the most wonderful mood for Srila Prabhupada, just happy to be disciple of Srila Prabhupada. So that's all I have to say. Srila Bhaktisvarupa Damodara Maharaj ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Hare Krishna.
Jai Shri Bhaktisvarupa Damodara Swami Maharaj ki jai. The day Maharaj's body came here, after he left his body, so I received actually. I was told by the senior authorities to receive and take it to the Navadip and also make a place for Samadhi. So temple president was very active those days, but still he gave me
very good support, very good help, all the devotees we went. One incident I just like to tell in a very short way. That was 97 World Congress, Calcutta World Congress. I was told by Maharaj that you have to collect some funds because I have not received not a single penny so far. So it was about 1 week before the program starts. That was 1st January, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 97, early month of 97. So I had to come here for Brajamandal Parikrama was also on, so I just took leave 15 days from Brajamandal Parikrama, the first part of Brajamandal Parikrama, and I just went to Delhi and other places to collect some funds for Maharaj for World Congress. And you must have seen in the this thing that one hub Maharaj ordered from Los Angeles. It came to Calcutta, and I went there in the middle of the night, 2 o'clock. I went to the Calcutta airport and brought it along with me and fixed it there in the Calcutta BI. So Maharaj told that you have done a very good job. Maharaj was very happy seeing Prabhupada after a long time. So Maharaj said that you have to manage again for the prasadam of the so many 1700 scientists and 4 Nobel laureates came. You have to arrange for their VVIP prasadam. So anyway, it was all Prabhupada's mercy. Whatever I thought that I will go and collect from the big people, like one of those people was Simplex Construction Company chairman, and I went there. It was nearby, what is that place? Central of the city, I'm from Calcutta, but I can't remember right now the street name. So there I went and meet him, and he said, all right, how many days program? He is also a quantum physicist, very, very highly educated. And he appreciated Maharaj, all those programs and all these things. He said, I attended 86 World Congress there in Bombay. I said, then you know everything, huh? I don't have to explain you anything. So he said, no, how many days you are going to have the program? I said, we have 4 days program. I said, okay, how much? Give me some estimation. I said, I don't have any estimation. Maharaj told that you should have very good VVIP prasadam. So he said, all right, no problem. So shall I give you a check right now? I said, yes, why not? So I said, I have no idea how much it will cost. Maybe it goes up to lakhs of rupees, So he said, ultimately, 60 lakhs rupees he gave, the end of the program. And that was more than enough for us, 4 days program, 4 days first class prasadam. And Bhakticharu Maharaj's disciples and others, they have a group. Bhakticharu Maharaj came forward and told Maharaj, you don't worry, everything we will do, we'll take care of it. So they had a very, very nice prasadam. So Maharaj was very worried. Actually, BI is depending on BVT, because BVT's sanction, some money was supposed to be coming before 27th, but it is not come. So he said, Murali, you go to the bank and ask. So I went there in the bank and they said, no, not so far. So I forgot the name. One Prabhuji was very close to Maharaj, and he was organizing, collecting money from BVT and sent it to Calcutta. For in the night, 2 o'clock in the middle of the night, I was sitting down with Maharaj in the Calcutta BI office, and I literally tell you one thing, he was crying. What will happen? It's about those days, 1 crore rupees is very, very big amount. How to collect that amount of money. It's not yet come. 27th and 1st of January we have to. So after that, 5 o'clock, I got a fax message. Those days the fax was very good, this thing. So I got a fax message, and I got it and took it to run it to Maharaj to show it to him that they have sent 90 lakhs rupees they have sent. And then he said, Murali, you have to collect, you have no time at all. I said, I have already collected about 45 lakhs in Delhi and Jaipur and other places, Agra and other places I went myself. And about 45 lakhs I collected. And that arrangement for Prasadam, 4 days Prasadam is a huge expense, how huge money involved in this. So Maharaj was very happy actually. So I was actually seeing Maharaj and in front of Prabhupada's that sculpture, and I saw Maharaj was really, I can see that he's crying, what will happen. He was praying Prabhupada. So Prabhupada was so mercy, Prabhupada allowed everything, whatever. At the end, when we started the program, everything was perfectly, everything was all right. So Prabhupada's actually, Maharaj said that this is all done by Prabhupada because he loves me and I wanted to do this, I wanted to preach this way, so he accepted that one, and then he has helped me, he has allowed me to do, and also he, at the end, he supported like this. Without Prabhupada's mercy, it cannot be done. In few days or few weeks, he collects crores of rupees. Not possible. At the end, we found that it was about more than 2 crores collected in few days' time, few weeks' time, rather, I should say. And that's it. Maharaj was actually weeping, but he was smiling also at the same time, asking me to sit down here. Sit down. So I sat down next to him, and he said, Murali, you have helped. I said, no, I have not helped you. I could have helped much more than this, whatever I have done. Only thing that it is because of your mercy, because Prabhupada's mercy, I went around and I just brought some little funds for you, and so that you can nicely perform the whole program. So that was my one of the experiences I share with you. Nothing else. My Guru Maharaj is in my mind and heart, and because of him only I met him in 2 times before. Before I joined ISKCON, I was in England. I was working somewhere. I met Maharaj in London Manor, Bhaktivinoda Manor. And then Berkeley, California, I met him after that. So he said, when you come back to India, I will initiate you. I said, all right, no problem. So I'm coming on 90, so that the same day, the flight was the same day when that Ashoka was blasted in the air. The Ashoka Air India plane was blasted and 400 people died. So I cancelled my ticket. I went to Cork. Cork is a place where the plane fell down on the sea, Atlantic. Then I came back on 18th of October. 18th of October, I think, yes, I cannot properly exactly remembering. 18th of October I got the flight and then came to India, and after that 85 Gaur Purnima, he was ready. He said, all right, you come to Mayapur, I will initiate you. So he gave me initiation, first initiation, and in the same year I got the initiation, second initiation here in Vrindavan, because I always, from 87, I've been doing the Brajmandal Parikrama, and I had to come in the winter, so I came here and he gave, all right, I will give you the second initiation. So that was my Maharaj's mercy I got. At least I have been initiated in our Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. So I'm really grateful to Prabhupada. I'm really grateful to Guru Maharaj that a person like me, a fall down person like me, I am just insignificant in this material world. Even then, they have given me the chance to preach Krishna consciousness in the country. After that, I never been to abroad. I stayed here in India and preached all over Manipur and and South India, those days South India, there was not many temples, not many devotees coming forward to join ISKCON. But I went there in Vijayawada. It was a very rustic place, and anyway, that was the place I first went, and I just, from the ground itself, I just created people to come forward and help us in ISKCON, join ISKCON, preach ISKCON philosophies and all. Then after that it's going on. I have left Vijayawada, but with the permission of Guru Maharaj, he said that, okay, you can go because you like Vrindavan, so you can go and settle in Vrindavan after you giving up this managerial post and all these things in ISKCON, you can go. So since then I have been here. I am staying here by the mercy of Radharani, Guru Maharaj and Prabhupada. I am staying here and just going on. Hare Krishna. Once again, Bhaktisvarupa Damodara Swami Maharaj ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyev cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktisvarupa Damodara Swaminiti Namine. Namo Sadbhakta Manipura Udvaya cha Prabhupada Lasadvani Parchara Niratayate. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deva Gauravani Pracharine Nirvashesha Shunyavadi Pasyacha Deshatharine. So I would like to read His Holiness Bhaktisvarupa Damodara Maharaj's pastime while he was in USA doing his PhD, and how Maharaj met devotees and Prabhupada. In 1969, His Holiness Bhaktisvarupa Damodara Maharaj was a student at the University of California, Irvine, USA, doing his research work in physical organic chemistry. In April 1970, Maharaj received the news of his mother's passing away in Manipur, India. The news was very shocking, and he wanted to return to India for performing his mother's funeral ceremony. Just before to start his journey, he received a message from one of his teachers advising him to not return to India. The message was, being a Vaishnava, you should not lament neither for a living nor for a dead. The nature of body is temporary, but soul is eternal. Sooner or later, there will be a time for everyone to leave this temporary body. He further instructed him better not to worry. Instead, concentrate on the studying and return to India after graduation. Hearing the sad news of his mother's passing away, Maharaj's friend, Dr. Ravindra Pratap Rao, came to visit him. Dr. Rao suggested they go for a ride to Laguna Beach. While they were walking along the coast, they saw some ISKCON devotees chanting Harinam Sankirtan. Out of curiosity, they followed the devotees and were eager to know more about them. One of the devotees noticed Maharaj and Dr. Rao following the Sankirtan party. He stopped and invited them to the local ISKCON temple in Laguna Canyon. The devotee explained to them about their daily activities, chanting Krishna's holy name and accepting the food which was offered to the Lord Krishna as prasad. The following day, Dr. Rao went to the temple alone, when he met Maharaj, told him how devotees and temple atmosphere was pleasant. Dr. Rao would urge Maharaj to join him for visiting the temple, but Maharaj would decline due to academic pressure. One day, Dr. Rao told Maharaj that Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of ISKCON, was staying in Los Angeles, and he suggested that they go and visit Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj refused due to being extremely busy with his research work but requested a report about his visit. Dr. Rao drove to Los Angeles Temple and visited Srila Prabhupada. When Srila Prabhupada saw him, he said, "You have been sent by Lord Krishna, and I am praying to Lord Krishna to send Indian boys in order to help me." After returning, Dr. Rao narrated the incident to Maharaj and requested him to join him for visiting Srila Prabhupada. But Maharaj refused. Dr. Rao went to visit Srila Prabhupada for a few days, and after returning requested Maharaj to join him, but Maharaj refused to go due to the pressure of his studying. Finally, one day, Dr. Rao told Maharaj that if he would not go and visit Srila Prabhupada the next day with him, he would never talk to him in this lifetime, and their friendship will be finished forever. Maharaj did not have a good opinion of the Indian Swamis in the USA. Having heard of some of their activities, he mistakenly thought that Srila Prabhupada would also be like them. However, out of friendship, Maharaj decided to accompany Dr. Rao the next day. Next day morning, they drove to Los Angeles Temple. On the way, Dr. Rao revealed to Maharaj that he was going to be initiated by Srila Prabhupada that morning. Maharaj was surprised, and he asked him if he would shave his head and wear saffron dhoti in the lab. Dr. Rao's reply was, it would be his pleasure. Maharaj was struck by his friend's determination, enthusiasm, and sincerity, and admired his great courage and said, "You must be blessed by Srila Prabhupada." After reaching the temple, Srila Prabhupada sat on the Vyasasana, and Maharaj was standing next to the deities and facing exactly opposite by Vyasasana. Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada looked to each other for a few minutes. After Srila Prabhupada singing, Maharaj's mind was captivated by Srila Prabhupada's sweet, melodious, and intense devotional singing. Immediately after the song, the initiation ceremony began, and Dr. Rao became Ramananda Rai Das. Ramananda Rai and Maharaj, who was very eager to see Srila Prabhupada at that time, went to Srila Prabhupada's room. Upon entering Srila Prabhupada's room, they sat humbly before him. Ramananda Rai introduced Maharaj to Srila Prabhupada and informed him that he is from Manipur and was currently working on his PhD in chemistry at the University of California, Irvine. Srila Prabhupada was extremely happy and remarked Manipuri people as Vaishnavas, and they are having Radha Krishna and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu temples in Vrindavan, Radhakund, and Navadvip. Also, Srila Prabhupada appreciated the Vaishnava culture of Manipur, especially its devotional music and dance based on Lord Krishna's pastimes. Srila Prabhupada then asked Maharaj, "Being born in Vaishnava family, why did you come here crossing the ocean? You young scholars and students have come here to USA as beggars to beg scientific knowledge and dollars. But I have not come here to beg. I come to America to give Bhagavad culture, which they don't have. Why don't you do the same as I am doing? Why are you simply taking? Why don't you also give something?" Maharaj was deeply moved by Srila Prabhupada's words. After that meeting, Maharaj started visiting Srila Prabhupada in Los Angeles Temple, and after a short time, he received spiritual initiation and became Swarup Damodar Das. After receiving sannyas initiation, he received the name Bhaktisvarupa Damodar Swami. While visiting Srila Prabhupada in Los Angeles Temple, Maharaj started asking Srila Prabhupada about the nature of this material world, nature of life, nature of absolute truth. Also, he suggested to Srila Prabhupada to discuss his discontinue his PhD work in order to render some menial service to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada's reply was, "No, in this world, without a PhD, people will not listen to you." Srila Prabhupada had plans for Maharaj, and PhD would be useful to implement those plans. For 8 years, beginning with Maharaj's morning walks with Srila Prabhupada in the early 1970s to the last hours of Srila Prabhupada's manifest pastimes in this world in 1977 in Vrindavan, Srila Prabhupada gave numerous instructions in the fields of science, philosophy, religion, Bhagavad cosmology, evolution, art, culture, spiritual education, etc. Bhaktisvarupa Damodara Maharaj, as a loyal and devoted disciple, tirelessly and sincerely dedicated his life for fulfillment all Srila Prabhupada's instructions at the best of his ability, and also encouraged his disciples to be loyal and dedicated to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Parampara in this lifetime. I feel eternally indebted to Guru Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada for giving me the most valuable opportunity of being in this glorious Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I am praying for the blessings of all the Vaishnavas to be able to continue my devotional journey for the pleasure of Guru and Krishna. And for the information, Ramananda Rai, after he moved to India and he opened a center in, I can't remember the name now, Gorakhpur. And then in 1976, he left his body. Prabhupada was very, very proud of these two devotees, like being a scientist and same time following the Vaishnava tradition. They were very important tools for the Krishna consciousness preaching. Therefore, he named them after Ramananda Rai and Swarup Damodar Maharaj. Srila Shripad Maharaj ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. First, I will read the offering by Her Grace Nagapatni Devi Dasi. She was not able to come, and she sent her offering. I remember when he started coming to the Laguna Beach temple. He was profoundly different than our usual hippie guest. Somehow he attained information about Srila Prabhupada and his teachings that attracted him to come. He could appreciate Krishna consciousness more than most people due to his deeply spiritual background. In addition, he was very well educated. He knew so much more about Krishna and the philosophy than any of us, but he was always very humble and kind. Once he gave me a ride to the doctor. At the time, he was a student at the University of Ireland and had a classmate friend that also occasionally visited the temple. When I moved up to the LA temple, I saw he would make the endeavor an hour, 15-minute drive during bad traffic to take walks with Srila Prabhupada in the early mornings. When he came, he would sit humbly in the corner on the floor. He didn't speak to anyone, just chanted. Often, he would wear his bright-colored vest that kind of stood out. Soon he could see he became very dear to Srila Prabhupada because Prabhupada would endearingly refer to him as our scientist. When he walked with Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada would question him about scientific beliefs and sometimes debate him. He was teaching him how to preach and at the same time learning how to be more effective from him. The last time I spoke with him was in Berkeley. He invited us to come to a major Sankirtan festival in India for the turn of the century. Unfortunately, I came the following year when he passed. I was here in Vrindavan. I certainly can't understand Krishna's plans, but when great souls like this leave, I feel a great loss. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and all glories to Bhaktisvarupa Damodara Swami. This was offering by Nagapatni Devi Dasi. Dear most Srila Shripad, please accept my most humble obeisances at your divine lotus feet. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to your grace. This year we are celebrating your 14th disappearance festival in a time that the world is facing a serious crisis and it is affecting so many people's lives. The more we are in this material world, the more we realize the delusive nature of it. People's lives are threatened by a small particle. There is no way to get out of it, and so many are dying because of it. This is the current situation of the world. But despite of all these happenings, we are so fortunate that by your causeless mercy and blessings are securely situated on board of the ship that Srila Prabhupada has set it in the waves of this material world. Lord Shri Krishna sent you to this material world to assist Srila Prabhupada in his preaching mission. Upon seeing you for the first time in Los Angeles, Srila Prabhupada told you to give Bhagavad culture to the Western countries. Being greatly affected by that meeting, you started to visit Srila Prabhupada in the Los Angeles temple and join him in his morning walks. Srila Prabhupada personally trained you and answered all your questions about the material world, nature of life, and what is the absolute truth. And after a short period of time, you dedicated to give your life to his mission. In a letter to you dated September 8, 1974, Srila Prabhupada wrote, "So we have got a great mission. You are one of the strong pillars of the mission. So I have all confidence in you. Follow strictly all our rules and regulations. Be fully strong to push on this cult amongst the educated scientific circle. That you are getting many speaking invitations is a good indication. Take advantage of this. Krishna is asking you to do this job." You took Srila Prabhupada's instruction very seriously, and during your physical presence in this material world, organized international conferences and invited so many Nobel Prize winners just to prove them that life comes from life. In these conferences, with your utmost humility, you challenged the scientists with their mundane theories by the knowledge that Srila Prabhupada has been given to you with care and love. As an expert gardener, just like when you were 14 years old and had to till the land for your livelihood, you plowed the barren land of the material knowledge and planted the seed of the Vedic wisdom and knowledge, this time not for your livelihood, but to save the world from famine of theology. We may or may not understand the challenges that you've gone through for organizing these conferences, and also can't expect the seed that you planted to turn into a tree in a day and give fruits. It may take time, and in due course of time, it will change the views and attitudes of the scholars and scientists. Today, I wish that you were present in this world personally. The scientists need to hear from you more and more, especially now that the world is facing so many crises and they can't find any remedy. Lord Shri Krishna is showing them his existence and power so that they may also accept his supremacy and realize how insignificant they are. Alas, you can't be here with us and continue your divine preaching. But is there any difference to be present here personally? You are continuing your existence and preaching through your books that you left behind for the intellectual class of people, scientists, and many more generations to come. These books are your weapons, and they can be used by your faithful disciples to continue your preaching and the battle that you started with the scientists. He reasons ill who says that Vaishnavas die, when two are living still in sound. The Vaishnavas die to live, and living try to spread the holy name around. On this most auspicious divine disappearance day of your grace, I beg you to please continue showering your mercy and blessings to this most unqualified soul, so that one day I be qualified enough to call myself your disciple. Your most fallen servant, Kamala Devi Dasi.
Om Ajnanathmirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktisvarupa Damodara Swami Dhinamine. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamine. Vancha kalpatarupyasya kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Please bear with me, I am not prepared. My life's journey started at the lotus feet of His Holiness Bhaktisvarupa Damodara Swami Maharaj. My parents got initiated in Bombay in the year 1993. So I began my life under his lotus feet. So every year when Maharaj used to come in Bombay, there used to be two houses where Maharaj will at any cost have his programs. One was at IIT, he was a scientist, so there, and other was at our house. So as usual, Maharaj used to come, and I was around like 3-4 years, and we used to have all the community in our house, and Maharaj used to slowly take all of us to Vaikuntha with all his kirtans. So and we were always like monkeys dancing around him. So Maharaj was very affectionate to all of us and very hospitable, because my parents, they used to distribute books a lot, and meanwhile, like my mother had broken her hand. So personally, Maharaj, although being such a big personality, scientist, but he personally called my father and inquired about my mother and how was she and how she is taking care in that way. So we saw, for us, Maharaj was like Kirtan. For us, we don't know that he's a scientist or anything else. We were only drowning in his kirtans. And as all the senior devotees told, that Prabhupada had a great expectations and he was very proud. So Prabhupada told that this boy was a stubborn atheist, and we used to walk at the seaside, and I used to continuously refute him, kicking him and refuting his arguments. Now he's organized this such a nice Bhaktivedanta Institute. So Prabhupada had a lot of expectations on him. Also, we know the hero of Bhagavad-Gita, Arjuna. He had 4 wives, Subhadra, Draupadi, Chitrangada, and Ulupi. So they had 4 children. Shrutakirti, Abhimanyu, and Babruvahan, and Iravan. So Manipur, the royal families of Manipur and Assam, they were the descendants of Babruvahan. So naturally the state of Manipur was a Vaishnava state, as Dinbandhu Prabhu was telling. So Prabhupada wanted that Maharaj makes that Manipur state as a very ideal, and like every place is ideal for something. Like Russia was ideal for communism, it was called communist state. So Prabhupada wanted this Manipur as Vaishnava state. So he told that we will convert all these police people and all the people of Manipur as devotees, and we will train these police people to march not as left and right or whatever, but we will give them the slogan of marching. And what was that slogan Prabhupada told was Jai Radhe, Jai Krishna, Jai Bhabruvahan, Jai Arjuna. That was the slogan Prabhupada told Bhaktisvarupa Damodara Maharaj to initiate. So as Prabhupada had a lot of expectations and dreams from Guru Maharaj, and undoubtedly he fulfilled all of his dreams, and Maharaj is gave us so much that we can never forget. To me and my family, one day I was sitting in Rath Yatra in the cart, and suddenly I was very small, so Maharaj came onto the cart, and he took some cookies and he shared that cookies with me. So he was very affectionate, and because I was so small, I don't really remember everything. But I'm very fortunate that Lava Matra Sadhu Sangha which I had got, is what is sailing me along through the next part of my life. I got my Guru Maharaj. So on this very auspicious occasion, I humbly like to beg to Maharaj that to shower his mercy on me and my family, so that we can be instrumental in the mission of Lord Chaitanya and Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.